Okay, so we left off solving some inequalities. We're going to get to absolute value inequalities in a minute. Let's just do another couple inequalities and practice writing those in interval notation. Like I said, the same rules apply to solving an equation, so we do want to get our variables on the same side. We didn't divide or multiply by a negative, so we can keep that as greater than. I'll subtract 5 from both sides. Just because 3 minus 5 is -2 doesn't mean I do anything here with the greater than. I didn't divide or multiply by a negative. Here I'm divided by a +2. I get x is greater than -1. And that's how we write it in interval notation. -1 to infinity. In this case, I would probably subtract 2x. Maybe you would subtract 4x. It's up to you. I get -3 is greater than or equal to 2x. And now I'm going to divide by a +2, and I have -3/2 greater than or equal to x. That's awkward when the x is on the left, okay? Or on the right, I mean. We like interval notation. We go with, smallest to biggest. This is really saying, I'm not flipping my sign now. I'm going to flip the whole inequality. If -3/2 is greater than or equal to x, then x is less than or equal to -3/2 or -1.5. People tend to look at this greater than sign and think it's like this, but my x on the right, I really am talking about numbers that are smaller than or equal to -1/2. -1.5. Okay? You can say 3/2, you can say -1.5. I don't care if you say -3/2, -1.5, or -1.5. Okay, as long as you have this bracket here because of the equal to. Okay? So just be careful where your x ends up. Now, absolute value. We have absolute value less than, we have absolute value greater than. If an absolute value of something is less than or equal to a number that's positive, okay, then what we have to do is take the 4x minus 3 and we basically stick it between 5 and -5. Okay, or you could write 4x minus 3 is less than or equal to 5, and 4x minus 3 is greater than or equal to -5. But oftentimes when we use the word and, we write a compound inequality. If I have a less than, then I know that what's in this absolute value is between 5 and its opposite. So I usually write it that way, okay? And then we solve that compound inequality by adding 3. This time we kind of have 3 sides we're adding 3 to. And dividing by 4. So if I take -2 divided by 4, that's -1/2. 5 divided by 4, I'll just write 5/4. To write that as a compound inequality, I'm going to use my brackets because of the equal to sign. It's everything between -1/2 and 1 1/4. -0.5 and 1.25, however you want to write that. But it's all the numbers in between will satisfy that. Again, that's because it's less than or equal to. That's one thing I wanted you to use this organizer for right here. When you're doing problems, if you end up doing absolute value less than or equal to, okay, then you know that's the same as saying x is between -2 and 2, okay, or including -2 and 2. So I just wrote, I didn't just have x, I had an expression in there. So I set the expression between 5 and -5. Now, that's not what we do when we have greater than. If I have something and I take the absolute value and I get something bigger than 5, then I have 2 cases. Either the 3 minus 2x is bigger than 5, or the 3 minus 2x is less than negative 5, right? Something less than negative 5, like negative 6. When I take the absolute value of negative 6, I get 6. That's bigger than 5. Something less than negative 5, like negative 7. When I take the absolute value of negative 7, that's 7. That's bigger than 5. Okay, so if it's a greater than problem, we're setting up an or situation, then we have to do either one or the other. So I write the 3 minus 2x without the absolute values, and I write the greater than 5. Or I write the 3 minus 2x without the absolute value, and I switch this and say less than negative 5. Solving those both, I would subtract 3, right? Minus 3, divide by negative 2. Careful, when I divide by negative, I flip this greater than sign to a less than sign. Okay, so I subtracted 3 from 5, I got 2. I divided both sides by negative 2, I got negative 1. Or on this side, I would subtract 3 and get negative 8. I divide by negative 2, so I'm going to flip this sign. Negative 8 divided by negative 2 is 4. So my answers are x is less than negative 1. That's how we write less than negative 1. Or bigger than 4 in union with 4 to infinity. Okay, I have two different inequalities that I have to write. X is less than negative 1. That's negative infinity up to negative 1. And also, or in union with, stuff bigger than 4. 4 to infinity. And notice I'm using parentheses there because there's no equal to sign. Okay, so these are the two cases. You either have less than or equal to. And if it's less than or equal to, you stick what's in the absolute value between this number and its opposite. If you have a greater than or equal to, then you have to write two separate inequalities. This stuff is either bigger than 5, just like it says, or the stuff in the absolute value is less than negative 5. Okay? You might be asked to write things as a single interval. In other words, and again, you've already done the union, okay? Union means join together. So negative 3 to 9 in union with negative 1 to 5. Sometimes I just write that on a number line to give myself an idea. If I'm going from negative 3 up to 9, open circles, everything in between there. And I want to know, I want to join that with negative 1, here's negative 1, let's say, up to 5. Well, I'm joining them together. That's not what they have in common. And is what they have in common. If I'm joining these together, I simply can just say negative 3 to 9. Negative 3 to 9 encompasses negative 1 to 5. However, if I said what do they have in common, then that's only the negative 1 to 5. Okay, so just be careful. Sometimes you'll have, there's a difference between and, which is kind of this upside down U symbol, and union, which means just stick them together and what do you have? And means what do they have in common? What numbers are in both this and this? In this case, it ended up being that set. So if I wanted to take 3 to 5 and join it together with 4 to 7, so 3 to 5, including 3 and 5, join together with 4 to 7. I just want everything that's either in one or the other, then I would say that answer is 3 to 7. I'll just stick them together and say, hey, all the answers are between 3 and 7. You don't have to, they're somewhere in there. That's what 3 to 5 in union with 4 to 7. Sometimes they join together like that. Ours that we did back here with the union, they don't join together. I can't be less than negative 1. There's nothing in common with less than negative 1 and then bigger than 4. Okay, but that's not always the case. Okay, and sometimes they'll give us, we'll get an answer and it's kind of redundant. There's no need to write both these sets. What these two have in common is negative 1 to 5. There's no sense in writing these. If I join them together, I get -3 to 9. Here, instead of writing these two sets, I could have just said, hey, it's from 3 to 7. Okay, so just be careful when you're writing your interval notation and make sure that you're not doubling up on answers, okay? All right, so the homework for this section, I have some practice problems on Schoology and I think also Socrative. And then you can always, you have your books at home. That's why they're there. Maybe go through and do some of the odd problems in the book and see if you're getting the answers which are in the back. Okay? And when you're done with this, then start studying for the test. The review for the test and the key is on D2, is on Schoology. Okay? In the Unit 1 folder. All right. See you guys in school. Bye.